Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. I've been sharing about financial independence for women, and today we are talking about debt. Who has ever experienced the debt trap? Is that even a reasonable question? Because definitely, some people may haven't, but I have, and I believe majority of people have experienced situations where they were indebted. So basically, one of the traps for financial independence is debt, especially when you keep multiplying, adding, increasing your debt. So, in today's video, I'll be telling you about how you can get out of debt just in case you are deep neck into debt. I am Dr. Uyime Hamilton, and on this channel, I share topics on women's health and lifestyle. So, let's get right into it. So, when it comes to debt, the first thing you need to do is outline your debts. How many debts do you have? Who are you owing? How much are you owing? And if you have interest on those debts, what are the interest? I remember having to read a book about the richest man in Babylon, and one of the things that he addressed was this issue of debt. And there was also another session where I attended on financial management. And as at that season of my life, I actually had some debt. In fact, that year, my plan was to pay off my debt. And one of the things that helped me was my ability to be able to write out the debt I was owing, how much it was, and actually know how I wanted to go about paying the debt. And that takes me to my next point. You need to be able to have a very realistic plan on how to pay off your debt. You know how you would say you want to um, remove a chunk of your money just to settle the debt. It's not really realistic. And that's one thing I learned through The Richest Man in Babylon, that book. And it talked about how you take a small percentage of your money and you spread it over a long period of time. Just have an agreement with whoever you are owing and you pay gradually until you finish off that debt. So the third thing you need to do is you need to avoid acquiring new debt. You know, there's that tendency, especially if where I come from in Nigeria, especially if you work in an office setting, people will come and be selling things to you because they know that at the end of the month you will pay. And there's always that temptation. I know so many times I fall into that temptation. But one thing that helped me was my ability to have a budget. In my last video, I talked about having a budget. When I have a budget, I know that this is the certain amount I have budgeted for things that have to do with my own self-care. So if someone comes and wants to sell something to me that I do not really need. In fact, there was this time I entered this one chance. Like, I don't know, I was so undecided. And I decided at the end, okay, let me just buy this thing. And to pay off the thing was a problem because it was quite expensive. And one thing about me is when I do things, I don't like to regret. In all honesty, in my inner man, I was regretting having to have engaged in that expenditure. But I also decided to learn from that experience. So when it comes to acquiring new debts, that's a trap you have to avoid. Ensure that you have a budget, and based on your budget, you know what you cannot exceed. For instance, if for your self-care, your budget is 50K, 50,000 naira, you will tell yourself when they are selling things, is this thing I want to buy important? Will I in the next 1 year or 2 years use this thing? You know, there's this tendency as women, we want to buy and keep, and so for future use. Sometimes that is good, but if it's going to exceed your budget, trust me, it's something you can push back to some other time. And another thing you can do when it comes to debt is you reduce your expenses and increase your income. So, like I just said previously, if it's not going to be important, it's not urgent, try to cut down your expenditure to the things that are really important and the things that are really urgent. Then also look for creative ways to increase your income. In the last video too, I talked about the need to monetize your skills, have a side hustle so that you can afford your lifestyle. Remember, financial independence is about your ability to afford your living costs or your expenses, even when your primary income is taken away from you. So it's really, really important to ensure you look for ways to increase your income. And lastly, it's important to pay off your debt regularly. In fact, the day I paid off my debt completely, I felt like a free woman. There's that tendency to say, oh, I have so many things, so many responsibilities. You keep pushing the debt, pushing the debt. If it's a debt that has interest, you are only increasing the amount you will pay at the end of the day. It may seem like you are paying small amounts, but for a long period of time, by the time you accumulate those small amounts, it will be even a lot larger than the initial debt you had collected. So that discipline to ensure that you pay off your debts on a regular basis, make sure you do that. So with these five things I've shared, you are on your way to breaking out of debt. Remember, debt is a trap. That's why it's important to have an emergency fund. It's important to have a budget so that anything you're doing, you can have it all planned out. And in that way, you don't have to incur more debt. I'm using this opportunity to invite you to our webinar on how to plan financial smart goals using the 50-30-20 principle. Trust me, it's a session you do not want to miss. Just follow my channel and subscribe and click the notification so that you will know when we go live. It's on the 16th of May on a Friday, next week Friday by 7 p.m. I look forward to hosting you. Bye.